Now, 10 after 11, relationship feature. And today we are speaking to Leigh Joy. Leigh never disappoints. She always has some very interesting things to say, and she's a relationship coach. We'll chat to her in the next few seconds.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
You know, there are couples who would be together for quite some time. They would just be having this beautiful relationship, long relationship that lasts and lasts and lasts. Ever wonder how couples stay happily married for 40 years or more? You come across them and they'll tell you, we've been married for 20 years, for 20, 30 years, 40 years. Well, a recent report by CNBC showed partnerships spanning 40, 50 and even 60 years, sharing the advice about love, marriage and staying together. And over the next hour, we'll share the heartfelt wisdom they offered from the why small acts of kindness matter in a relationship. To how to handle the conflict, keep the romance alive, and grow together even as life changes. So whether you newly in love or decades into your journey, these timeless ideas can help all of us, I assume, in our respective relationships. So Leigh joins us right now. Leigh Joy, relationship coach. Leigh, thanks for joining us. Welcome again. I hope you are well. It's been a minute.
Thabo, it's so awesome to hear you. Sorry I'm not in studio, but it's so lovely to hear your voice, and I'm so excited for this conversation because so many of us want our loves to last.
Yeah.
And if we can get, if we can get the best advice from the gurus, or not gurus, but the people that have walked the long yard, then I think that we can build robust relationships. And I believe robust relationships is what builds a robust and resilient and strong community.
Yeah, I was so disappointed that you're not in studio, Leigh, but all the best. And I'm happy that you could join us because you always shed light on these very important issues. And when I was reading last night about what we'll be talking about today and the advice behind long, happy relationships, the first question was that I had to myself was that, do they exist? Are they just a myth? But this CNBC, I think the report by CNBC showed quite a lot that actually there are some nuggets of wisdom that we can get from all of this. But Leigh, before we get to the advice that was shared, what does long-term commitment look like in a world where many people struggle with consistency and patience and communication, myself included?
I think, this article was so powerful for me, and why I shared it with your producer, Sanazo, and I'm so thrilled that you guys have picked this up and want to talk about it. Because I think, there's Esther Perel speaks about, she's a Belgian therapist. And she talks about, she's amazing. She talks about how when our parents and forefathers were in relationships, it was one relationship for 40, 50 years. Now it's 2 to 3 relationships over a 40, 50-year period. So even a 10-year relationship is seen as a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Very interesting, hey?
Yeah, and I think I don't want to get too stuck on time, with regard to how long a relationship is together. I'm more interested in how do we increase or how do we nurture the quality of a relationship? Because I think when the quality of a relationship is paramount, then longevity is one of the outcomes.
Yeah, and whenever we touch on such topics, Leigh, I don't know. I could be wrong completely, but I feel that a number of people have given up. And I don't have the stats with me, but I feel that people are somehow delusioned now. They not delusioned, but disillusioned about what love is and the long-term effects of a relationship that is working, that is happy. And perhaps I'm speaking for myself, but is it doable that 40 years down the line, you are still happy? for 50 years down the line, you still choose this person and you'd still choose them given an opportunity. And you still feel that this is the person for me. I wouldn't want anyone else. Is it there, or is it just movies, Leigh? Is it a real life thing?
Yeah, I definitely think there are long-term relationships still out there. I think maybe in today's day and age, it's a little, like younger people, it's a little bit less prevalent. But the older generation, there's definitely, quite a fair amount of people that are still married. The question is whether you're happily married. I think that's one of the death knells of a relationship, is when we expect it to be continuously happy. I believe that just like a relationship is like a human, it's the third aspect of us, right? There's me, there's you, and then there's the relationship. And just as who's the developmental psychologist? It's not Beck. Bowlby talks about the development of the human being. You know, the child from the suckling to the different phases of development. I think that the relationship goes through equally similar developmental phases.
And what are some of those things? Maybe let's kick off with them. The nuggets of truth that make a relationship work. A friend of mine and I, whenever we joke around and we have nothing to laugh about, we would then come up with, we'd often say, what is the biggest myth about life that you've heard? And we'd both say that communication makes a good relationship.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not a myth. We're just being naughty. But I'm just thinking we sometimes, Leigh, I think, overplace the burden of, a workable relationship on communication. Is it still the case?
Yeah, I definitely think that the ability, I mean, one of the points here in that article that you and I are referencing to, they talk about, would you rather be right, or would you rather be build the relationship? Communication is vital. I mean, it's just tone, never mind what we say. There's a communication style that I teach my clients. It's called the sandwich effect. And basically what you do is the first part of the sandwich, the first bread, if you want to, you talk about what are the things that you really appreciate about your partner or the person, even it could be a colleague, whoever you're going to have the conversation with. Then you speak about what are the things that you struggle with, which is the meat. And then or if you're vegan, it will be tomato and
cucumber.
And then, and then the third element is how could we work on this together? That would be the second piece of bread. So when we communicate in that style or in that fashion, it's more digestible. And also there's the imago therapy style that I teach, where I teach my clients how to actually listen and speak, because sometimes, and women have got like 25,000 words a day and men have got like 5,000 words a day. So if a man, I've often heard men struggling because their wives speak too much, and then they get stuck after the first two. They get what's known as flooded, emotionally flooded, after the first two sentences, because it's too overwhelming, so their ears shut down. So often women will say, "Listen to me," and she's right. They're not listening, but not because they don't want to, just because they can't. They're totally overwhelmed. Their brains are overwhelmed. So there are different aspects of communication that are very important. Keep it simple, keep it short, rather break the conversation down into smaller chunks so that your partner can reflect back to you what they hear. So communication, I mean, that's a whole art and a science and a very big part of what I teach my clients.
Yeah. And Leigh, you're speaking about communication, but long-term couples often also talk about being teammates, and it feels as if you're a tech team. And what does true partnership look like in a modern relationship?
Great question. So I think before we can even be a partner, we need to be able to have great self-care. We need to be able to looking at ourselves spiritually, physically, intellectually, creatively, emotionally, and sexually, like what are our relationships to ourselves in those different areas. And then how do we, when we when those areas are balanced, we can show up as a really great partner. And obviously it's important that your partner then looks at those 6 areas of their lives as well. Brene Brown, who I adore, speaks about Steve, her husband, where they, everyone talks about there has to be like 50-50 in a relationship or 100-100 in a relationship. If you look at teamwork, and it's also not about keeping score within a relationship. Partnerships don't do that. But what Brene and Steve came up with, they'd get home in the day, like after work, and then they would check in with each other. What percentage are you at? Are you at 10%? Are you at 80%? And then say they were both at 20%, then they knew they had to down tools and they really had to get takeout. They're not going to do kids' homework. They're going to have a bath and go to bed early. Just so that there's a to minimize the fallout or the irritation or a breakdown in communication. Sometimes she would say, hey, I'm at an 80 and he's at a 20. And she would say, hey, don't worry, I've got this. You go do what you need to do. I've got this. I'll sort it out. And I think that's what partnership is really about. It's not about, hey, you bring 50, I bring 50, that transactional notion of keeping score, and more so like, hey, buddy, I'm here. What needs to get done? Where do you need help? And I see it. I mean, I've seen it this week in my clients, like one couple that I'm very fond of. He was very supportive of his wife. She started a new business, and he had a really great need for her this week as well, because he was going through some stuff, but he kind of put his needs to the side because he felt like he wanted to be there for her. And so I think that those are what knits the fiber of healthy relationships.
Sure. And that would take honesty and, I suppose, sound intention, in a sense that I can't always come home and say I'm at 15% all the time and expecting the other person to be carrying me as well. So intentional honesty is also very necessary with so that I don't shift the responsibility to one partner all the time.
Absolutely. But then you consider someone like, let's say the partner's got cancer or something horrible, got or dementia or whatever. Yeah. Then you would bring in a third party to help manage the home. So it's just like this whole Wonder Woman, Superman, effect of trying to do everything on our own really flies in the face of what partnership looks like. And I don't know about you, Thabo, but I'm because of my upbringing and the trauma experience, I'm like hyper independent, which is actually really destructive for relationships because I don't let my partner know when I'm struggling, and then he feels like, well, do you really love me and trust me if you feel like you can't do that? And so it's not that I don't love and trust him. It's just that I am so scared to be a burden to people. So, and so learning, I mean, I'm 51 and I'm only learning that now. Yeah. And so partnership really is about saying, hey, buddy, I'm needing some help. What can you do to help me? Not you should, not an expectation, but rather an invitation to step into the void.
I'm 100% like you, Leigh. I'm also hyper independent. I don't want to be disappointed, so I'd rather rely on myself. So I wouldn't share all that stuff. I'd rather keep it in. I'm like, I'll deal with it. I'll find a way to deal with it. And it's not helpful. And I'm not boasting about it because it's destructive. Someone else may feel useless, completely useless in a relationship, that you come to their rescue, but they are never, they never see you vulnerable. They never see you. They never get an opportunity to lift you up. So it's nothing to boast about. It's very destructive and it can kill a relationship. And I concur with you. And Leigh, I wanted to find out from you, speaking about long, happy relationships or marriage or partnerships, how much of that truly relies on compatibility? And how much of that is deliberate work that you put in? Because at times people will say, no, we're not compatible, no matter how much work you put in. If you're not compatible, it's just not going to last. What dosage do we use, and how many spoons do we use to make this concoction potent?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a lovely question because people have always, chemistry and compatibility are the two bookends of a healthy relationship. But, I don't think we're always necessarily compatible because we should be growing as people. So if we're growing as people, it would mean that our touch points would change over time. So not being compatible at a certain period of time doesn't mean that the relationship doesn't have to work. It just means that we're both having to put more effort into it. I know, like, if you look at the different we were talking about the different developmental stages of a relationship. In the beginning, the honeymoon phase, we totally gloss over the areas where we're not compatible with each other. And we're only focusing on the things that we're similar and our similarities. So, and then all the hormones and everything that flood our beings that create, connection and a bond. So, I don't know. I think that I think a relationship takes work, and I think that as a Christian, for me, it's been a beautiful experience to be able to ask God to help us with our relationship, where we have fallen short, to be able to ask the Holy Spirit to work through us and helping us with that. So, I think really, for me, if I look at compatibility, the most important thing for me is spirituality. Like, how are you compatible spiritually with the partner?
Yeah. 26 minutes after 11 o'clock, my guest is Leigh Joy, relationship coach, and we are looking at advice behind long relationships, what long married couples want you to know. Couples who've been in this commitment for quite some time. There was some survey that was done, a report recently by CNBC. It showed partnerships spanning over 40, 50 years, or even 60. And so they were giving and sharing advice about love, marriage, and staying together. We're reflecting on some of those nuggets of wisdom. Leigh and myself. Leigh's my guest, and she's an expert in these things. And feel free to share. It could be that you've been in a very long relationship. Qualitatively, quantitatively, you feel that it's of value, and you would like to share some nuggets of truth or some bit of tips, or your insights, your encounters that actually, if you do this, it just may help. I know it doesn't sound particularly sexy and fashionable because we're not talking about divorce, fighting, toxic people, what do you do, and so on. We're talking about people who are genuinely happy together. What are some of the things that they did? So feel free to share your thoughts with us on 011-883 0702, 011-883-0702. Alternatively, send a voice note to 072-702-1702 and a text message to that very same number as well. Perhaps your advice could help someone else out there to last a little bit longer in a loving relationship. We all need help. This thing doesn't come with a book of tricks. There's no formula, but an advice every now and then helps. Leigh, out of this report, did we pick up any patterns that were seemingly common, something that came over and over again as some element that may contribute towards having a long, happy relationship?
I think the most important is connection, and how we create connection is through dating. The one guy was 99 years old, and he says, I'm still courting my wife. Never stop dating. And I think that developing that connection, if you allow me, there's a amazing product by Yayo Health. It's Skeletium, which is amazing a product to be able to create connection between couples. They have lots of health benefits. But just going and having date nights and hanging out together and being friends. When I was young, very young, like before I started dating, my mom said to me, you've got to choose someone who's a friend. Make a friend first, and once you've developed the friendship, then think about having a romantic relationship with them. And when I was young and feisty and impatient, I didn't listen. But as I got older, I definitely saw the benefit in that, because if I only look at my partner, and I've seen it with couples as well, if they only look at them as lovers, there's such a beautiful part of connecting two souls together that is based on friendship. And that continual need to date, like that 99-year-old said, like to date and to write little notes and to give a bouquet of flowers, just a romance. And never to stop noticing. Oh, I see you got a new lipstick color. And I know guys are like my partner's like, Leigh, we don't even notice that stuff. I'm like, but that's not an excuse. Like, it's important to start, you know. But I'm not talking about him. He's very good at noticing stuff around my hair or whatever.
You're talking about me.
I'm just saying some men don't. But women also need to notice.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that men really enjoy as well. I've heard a lot in my practice, is where women have stopped noticing their husbands and the small things that they do. I feel like I'm being very sexist today. Should I say people stop noticing each other? I don't mean to be sexist, guys.
Apolitical language. But Leigh will chat shortly. It's exactly 11:30.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
On 702 011 883 0702. Here, are you in a long-term relationship and are you happy? What have you done? What measures have you put into place to make sure that that happiness stays and is sustainable and you can keep it for quite some time? We're speaking to Leigh Joy, relationship coach, and this is on the backdrop of a recent report by CNBC that showed that partnerships spanning 40, 50, even 60 years who are sharing advice on love, marriage, and staying happy together. So that's what we are reflecting on. We're looking at advice behind long and happy relationships, what long married couples want you to know. I suppose we go around picking up advice, tips about relationships. So we'd like to hear from you now. And Leigh, let's come back to you. I was just thinking, but before that, maybe let me just not neglect some of the messages that have been coming through on 072 702 1702. This one says, good morning, Thabo. Spirituality is very important in a relationship. My husband and I are of the same faith. We pray together. This month on the 14th, we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary together. Oh, thank you. Oh, this is amazing. Well done. Congratulations to you. I suppose sharing faith does do something to a couple. If you believe in the same thing, it does help a lot. On 072 702 1702.
Hey, Thabo and your guest. My apologies. I joined late. I missed her name. My late husband, he loved impromptu getaways, weekends, and he would send an email and say, hey, babes, how about tomorrow we go away, we'll come back Sunday, that sort of thing. What I then would to do after we've come back, obviously during the trip, I also, thank him. But after the trip, I would send WhatsApp, a voice note, or, from the office, and I would say, hey, love, wow, I so enjoyed this. Thank you so much for making it possible for us, and just pick up on a few things that he especially did, and point them out and thank him. And then also on his birthdays, I never omitted spoiling him, not just expect to be spoiled. Thank you. Hey, Tembile.
Tembile, that is just so sweet. I love that. Leigh?
Tembile, I'm so sorry to hear that your husband is late, and I'm so grateful for you and happy for you that you had such a beautiful connection, where I can hear there was this deep respect and need to keep things fresh and fun.
Yeah, and also I think reciprocity. I don't know. I'm not qualified to speak about advice on long-term marriages and relationships, Leigh, but I think is there something to be said about reciprocity so that someone doesn't pour in all that they have, but they never get to receive anything? Yes,
I mean, the love languages are brilliant with that, right? Gary Chapman, where he speaks about the 5 different love languages. Let me see if I can remember. Acts of service, gifts, physical touch, quality time, and I can't remember the first one.
Yes.
But that's how we pour into each other, in understanding what your partner's love language is. And then you're able to pour into them the way that they can feel it and read it. Often, Thabo, people will give the love language that they most like. So let's say acts of service is the husband's love language, and he'll run around doing all these things to help and be like these acts of services. And she'll be like, you don't love me. You don't ever show you love me. And he's like, are you kidding me? I did this, and this. And she was like, yeah, but I like it when you're affectionate and when you spend quality time with me, you put down your phone. And so there's been some really beautiful shifts in relationship when I've helped them to identify their love languages, so that they can, words of affirmation. That's the first one.
Yeah.
So that they can really speak each other's language, basically, and fill each other's cups.
Is love a choice? Because this also came up where they said that love is a choice you keep making. Is it a choice, or do we have to depend on fate to assign to us our loved ones?
I think that we fall in love, and I don't know if that's a choice. I think, I don't know if in the beginning whether it's a choice, but I think there comes a time when one's like, okay, cool, I want to be with this person. This is my person. And then we choose. And then that choice becomes a daily thing. I mean, I remember I'd spoken to a doctor a number of years ago, and she said, Leigh, I see in my practice that the couples are choosing a love and marriage every single day because the thought of divorce comes up, but they choose to stay. They choose to love. They choose to do the next right thing.
And I mean, then Leigh, one of the things that they spoke about was that several couples also talk about not keeping score, something that is very difficult to do, especially when you are hurt, feeling disappointed, feeling let down. At times you just want to tell someone that you always do this. How detrimental is that to a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to what you mentioned earlier about reciprocity, and that you don't want to be the one that's always pouring into a relationship and the other one's just surfing, or skating or whatever. They're not really pouring into the relationship. But I know that once again, if you're looking at keeping score, and it is very detrimental to the relationship, because I think it makes us blind to what is being done in the relationship. So I think those robust, we were speaking about communication earlier, those robust conversations are so helpful, where one can say, I love you in this and this and this way, and these are the things. If we use that sandwich approach, this is how much I love you. Thank you for these, and these things. This is what would really speak to my heart if you could do this, and then how can we do that together? Maybe I need to remind you, or maybe whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Leigh, I mean, does it matter? Because we always stereotype genders in relationships, and we always say men are more prone to do this, women are more prone to do this. To what extent do those stereotypes work against us? And just to make an example, we'll always say that women are always emotional and men are not. But truly, at times, it really drills down to an individual. It comes down to an individual. You may find a man who does this and generally doesn't fall within that category of those stereotypes. Is it helpful to do away with stereotypes in a relationship?
That's a good point. I think that as couples and humans have evolved, the role of roles within a relationship has shifted. So let's say 2-3 generations ago, it was the woman's job to be at home and take care of the family, and it was the man's role to earn the income. Things have shifted because women have gone into the workplace, and some men are very importantly picked up some of the household duties and raising children and that kind of thing. So yes, I think to some degree we are doing away with what do you call it?
Stereotypes.
Stereotypes. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think also, Thabo, that there's also something about, the masculine wanting to hunt.
Yes.
And wanting to feel like they're winning something. And I think that a woman can a partner who, the feminine, can offer those opportunities. And I think it's important to offer those opportunities throughout the lifespan of a relationship, so that a man doesn't just catch you once.
Yes.
And it's not a game. You're not playing games with his heart. It is a game, like it's playful, but you're not playing games with someone's heart. Do you know the difference?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we can to some degree do away with the stereotypes, but in other ways still honor the primal need of the genders.
Yeah. Let's talk about a controversial one that was also posited in this big repository of advice on love and long-lasting happiness. Forgiveness. That's a very difficult one. And how do you know what to forgive and what not to? In this instance, they speak about the role that forgiveness plays in marriage that lasts a lifetime, and what does real forgiveness actually require. And these couples whose advice we are taking and looking at today, they also spoke about the centrality of forgiveness in a relationship.
Yeah, there's often times that that me and myself and, with my clients, I've had to learn to forgive myself. I've done it's not always necessarily about forgiving the other person. Sometimes I've done some really appalling things, or my clients have done really appalling things. And when we harbor that, a grudge against ourselves, that's just as detrimental as not forgiving the other. I know there's that term, I forgive but I won't forget, and I disagree. I think one must forget, because I think that otherwise you may forgive, but you just still harp on it by remembering it, if that makes sense.
But also, the danger is knowing what to forgive and what not to forgive, especially in a very toxic culture that we are living in, as we are speaking about GBV and all related sorts. There's also danger in speaking about forgiveness, or perhaps it needs to be qualified to say, whilst you forgive, you don't need to stay. But then,
exactly.
And yet that works against the long-lasting happy relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about toxicity and abuse and that kind of thing in a relationship, then, I still believe, the Bible teaches us to forgive, right?
Yeah.
Forgive ourselves, forgive, each other. But I think you're right. It also, it says, love one another as you love yourself. So if I love myself, I know that I'm going to put boundaries down that are self-protective, right? So forgiveness is such a big thing for me, and I love doing that work with my clients, because it's a three-way thing. Often my clients are actually crossed with God, and they've got to go through that forgiveness process. Then there's a process of self-forgiveness, and then the process of forgiving another. So, yeah, I think forgiveness is vital to having a healthy relationship with ourselves, with God, and each other.
Yeah. It's 12 minutes to 12 o'clock. My guest, Leigh Joy, Relationship Focus every Friday around about this time. And today we're looking at advice that has been given by some couples who've been together for quite some time, 40, 50, 60 years. They were sharing the advice of being in a happy relationship, and this was on CBC. So we thought, let's share those pearls of wisdom with you. And if you've got some, feel free to do so on 072-702-1702.
102
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Your text messages on 0727021702. My guest, Leigh Joy, relationship coach. Let me just quickly read this fabulous message that you've just sent through. It says, morning, on Sunday, it will be our 39th wedding anniversary. We've had very tough moments, and life gives many crises, but the bottom line is that you have to have similar set of values from the start. You have to want more or less the same things in life. And then also we do change. So if we are fortunate enough to grow in the same direction, then that's great. But you do not have to stay together for the sake of some weird happy ever after notion. I have to prompt my husband to woo me now and again. We are good friends and we have good laughs. But after so many years, I swear you have to want to be together and have adventures. Otherwise, what's the point? This comes from Celeste. Leigh, your thoughts on this?
Thanks, Celeste. I love that. I love the wooing and the having fun, and also acknowledging that the values are so important. I think that having a spiritual connection is based in values. And often is the pulling factor, if I can put it that way, that pulls couples through difficult times. So I absolutely agree with the values. And also choosing to be together. There's a really sweet quote at the end of this article where the person, where is it now? I asked a 94-year-old woman what advice would she give to her younger self. And she said, when in doubt, love. The world can always use more love.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's fantastically, Leigh. But there are also everyday chores of life that could perhaps be so mundane that they interrupt the love, they interrupt the airy-fairy, they interrupt the lightness that we need to fill. How do you navigate around those? And I'm talking about dishes, bills, painting walls, the garden, the pool that needs to be cleaned, the grumpy days where you don't feel like talking to anyone. Those are real stuff that happen every single day. Is the key not navigating around those, because those can be some serious booby traps?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the article speaks about ironing out the small things before they become big things. I think that communication, again, is so vital. If your partner is grumpy, to say, hey, have I done something to upset you, and if I have, when is a good time to talk about it, where it can be a loving conversation. Or, hey, I see you having a tough day. Can I be there for you in some way? I am determined, Thabo, to make washing dishes and cleaning pools sexy. I always tease my partners, or our pool looks amazing. His dad was very famous. He was the guy that invented fiberglass pools. So my partner is like a pool specialist in his own way. And I just say he's so sexy as a pool cleaner. So I can see he gets like a cheeky little grin on his face.
And
so I think it is being playful. Sorry to interrupt. It is playful, being playful around the mundane things. It brings us back to communication, back to partnership, back to friendship.
And I suppose a little bit of ourselves has to be surrendered, and not necessarily you giving up your entire personality. But there are some things where you need to know that I can't want to be totally myself all the time and somehow deny this person an opportunity as well to be themselves all the time. I need to give in at some point, and it needs to be a give and take. Leigh?
Totally. I mean, I think they speak very powerfully, and the work that I do with couples around creativity and having your own life, being your own person, is very important for a healthy relationship. But more to your point is that how do we allow somebody to be themselves? If they're having a bad day, they're having a bad day, and let them have a bad day. Say, I'm here for you and I love you, and if you need anything, I'm here for you. But I agree, just letting, not always having to be right, or never really about being right, and rather more about being loving.
Leigh, before we say goodbye, there are some beautiful lyrics from a song by James Ingram and Perry Austin, and it's called How Do You Keep the Music Playing? And the music is love in a relationship, in this instance, metaphorically. And one of the stanzas say, if we can be the best of lovers, yet be the best of friends, if we can try with every day to make it better as it grows, with any luck, then I suppose the music never ends. Your details, Leigh, how do people reach you?
Beautiful, beautiful. On WhatsApp on 079 525 8991, and then I'm LeighJoy.co.za.
Always lovely talking to you, my friend. Leigh Joy, relationship coach, was joining us for that very important conversation on relationship focus, 3 minutes to 12.